Hello and welcome everyone to our Agile Boston podcast. I'm here with a really good friend of the pod, Yuval Yeret, who is the founder of YeretAgility.com and a frequent speaker for Agile Boston community. And today, Yuval, we're talking about something really exciting, not just the 16th annual Give Thanks for Scrum, but the theme of this year's event, which is the future of Scrum with a big giant question mark at the end.
Yeah, it's a big question mark. Is Scrum dead? Is Scrum the phoenix coming from the ashes? Where is it going next? Is it something just the laggards are doing, or is it time for early adopters to look at it for some reason?
Great. So we're going to be talking about that and a lot more just coming up. So Yuval, my friend, how are things going? And have you been seeing a lot of the angst out there about the future of Scrum and Agile?
I think you need to be living under a rock not to see it, to be honest. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I wrote, I don't know, I think it's 2 years ago at this point, that the future of agility is not the future of agile roles. There is probably a better, clickbait headline to that blog, but essentially what I've been seeing at my work with clients is that people are realize that it doesn't make sense that some of the roles in the agile world, especially the Scrum Master role, does not make sense as a separate thing. And I'm helping them integrate that role into what leadership looks like. I think it's, the market is ripe for that. We're seeing a lot of angst and friction around that transition because dear friends and people in our community are at the place where they need to figure out, okay, what does that mean for me when leaders take on the Scrum Mastery role? I mean, my classes, I call them Scrum Mastery, not Scrum Master. I call it product ownership, not product owner, because, we're talking about accountabilities, not roles. But I think we'll get over the hump. And eventually the conversation is going to be more around agility and, the sort of stances that are still the right stances, I think. Empiricism and outcome orientation and working cross-functionally, that is all alive and well. It's just a matter of what's the right form factor for helping organizations do that.
And doesn't this solve a big problem? I mean, a lot of Scrum Masters that I talk to say to me, Joe, the problem I have is my manager just doesn't allow me to do what I need to do with the team, doesn't really believe in an Agile or Scrum, just goes along with it, hoping it's going to die, and eventually we'll go back to what we were doing before. I've heard that all the time. I'm sure you've heard that quite a bit from Scrum Masters. But then you have Jeff Sutherland, who said during his podcast around Rocket Mortgage that he started by transforming the managers into Agile leaders, into Scrum Masters, and they were the ones leading the Agile revolution within the organization. So doesn't this solve a big problem when we teach
I think it does.
people of authority how to be masters of Scrum?
I think it does. I think it doesn't necessarily make sense to look in the back mirror and talk about, should we have done this earlier? Should we have done it in the first place? But if I reflect on my origin story in Scrum, I was leading a group. I was VP engineering, and I brought Scrum into organization, and we didn't have Scrum Masters. I was the Scrum Master for our organization because I felt like, me as a leader and the team leads or managers, whatever you want to call them, they needed to act differently. And the only thing we had was a temporary Scrum Master that, over time became my partner when I started coaching, that helped show us the way, but he wasn't, he he was part of the scenery for a while. He wasn't a permanent part of our organization.
Right.
So I think a lot of organizations shied away from the big change of leaders changing their way. Scrum Masters became a stopgap, a band-aid, but there's a price that we're now paying for that as an industry, for that choice.
So when we think about now people with authority, people like managers, directors, even executive leaders like you were, when we talk about Scrum Mastery at their level, what are we really talking about? It's not really, I mean, it can't be just, yeah, create a backlog and write some stories, right? It has to be much
I
broader
don't
than
think that's what Scrum Mastery should be at
that.
any
Right,
level.
right,
A Scrum Master an organization should be about how do I point north? How do I teach people to think empirically, to focus on outcomes, find the right altitude to be involved in, and the right altitude to let people figure things out. As a Scrum Master for a company, for example, I would help the founder, the CEO, the GM, the leader deal with this. There's a buzzword even newer than the death of Agile. It's founder mode. I don't know if you've seen the whole conversation around
right,
founder mode, but Brian Chesky from Airbnb and Paul Graham at Y Combinator, they're talking about the fact that there's manager mode and founder mode. Founder mode being very involved in all of the details, not delegating, not creating, an empowered organization in a sense. And as a Scrum Master for an organization, what I would do and what I'm doing with organizations is helping leaders figure out, okay, how do we get the good out of founder mode? How do we get the right frequency of checkpoints with your organization? But also, how do we empower people to seek outcomes and fulfill their talent and be engaged rather than feel like they're pawns that are being micromanaged all day? So
right,
that's what Scrum Mastery looks like for the organization. And sometimes a leader would provide that service to their organization, and sometimes they do need a third-party perspective to help them out.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, I think one of the mistakes maybe we've made in the past, and it's okay to look at what we've learned over the last couple of decades and to adapt. I mean, that's the essence of agility, to try something, to learn from it, and to change if you need to. And I think one of the things we've learned is that we haven't spent enough time really thinking about tangible results for the business, understanding what is it that the business actually needs. Because when they're asking for a transformation, it's because they are not happy where they are today. But we don't spend enough time talking about, okay, well, where do you want to be? And then let's develop that journey. Let's make sure our focus is on that journey. I think we focus too much on the details of the framework or the details of
Yeah,
the scale versus that. What do you think about that?
I can tell you what I've done, what I've realized, and what my latest experiment is. I started to answer the question, what are you, Yuval? What are you doing? As I'm helping organizations scale. I'm a scaling product coach. For me, agility is, and empiricism, empowerment, cross-functional teams, organizing around value, Scrum, Safe, Kanban, whatever, all of those are tools that help organizations scale, whether what they're trying to do is continue to grow quickly and figure out a way how to get through the leadership as a constraint, which is kind of what founder mode is about. Whether it is an organization that is already at scale and is realizing it's become a crazy bureaucracy hell, that, in order to stay competitive, they need to figure out better ways of working. And I find that, at least for me, at the minimum, this orientation helps to focus on the right things. the jury is still out on whether that framing is helping others understand in more clarity what is it that I'm trying to do. But I think I'm hoping that it's a good framing for what we're doing as an industry. We're helping organizations scale and thrive, and it has nothing to do with scaled frameworks. Just
Right,
organizations are struggling to be effective at scale.
right. So, believe it or not, we're at our 16th annual Give Thanks for Scrum. You've been at several of them. You've presented at several of them. Did you ever think we'd get to the 16th annual?
I think we'll probably get to the 20th
I'm
anniversary.
hoping.
I'm pretty
I'm
sure
hoping.
we will.
Can't
You'll
stop at
have
16.
to, yes. Here's to number 16. I think Scrum has gone through quite a journey. A very interesting one, a very agile one. And like you said, we need to be agile about agile. We need to be agile about what Scrum looks like, where does Scrum go, what sort of problems Scrum is solving. I'm still using Scrum, day to day, both as a basis for how I think about stuff, as well as in practice with teams. What I am saying is that, and I'm excited about, is that more and more organizations and types of problems that we didn't really tackle with Scrum initially, those types of organizations are, for them, Scrum is like greenfield. They don't have all of that angst and
Right,
everything the
right,
IT and technology world have gone through. So we have a chance to do things right
right.
the first time with these people and help them scale and deal with complex problems.
Right. Learn from our own lessons
Yeah.
and start them off on a better foot. And we're going to be talking about all of these types of things, the transition of the role of the Scrum Master, scaling, all these things are all part of our theme, the future of Scrum. And Yuval, you're going to be part of our open space this year, which I'm really excited about. And people are going to be able to sit right side by side with you and talk about a lot of these things. You might lead a breakout session. You might go to several breakout sessions that other people do. And you've been to open spaces before. Like, what is your feeling about that as a meeting format?
I'm looking forward to it. There's something about open space that breaks through that makes the connection and the conversation in the classic conferences. It's much more intimate, much more fruitful. You learn much more even as a speaker when you're in an open space and
Right,
you get to have meaningful conversations with others. So especially when the topic is a complex one, is a gnarly one, like the future of Scrum and agility. I'm really looking forward to
and
having
and
those
and we're
conversations.
blessed to still have Jeff. We're blessed to still have Jeff with us, so he's going to be in here as the co-founder of Scrum, and Dave West as well. So it's going to be another great event. And Yuval, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you and see some of the great things that you've been doing and the services that you provide.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. You can go to yuvalyeret.com. The first thing you'll find there is um, an ability to subscribe to my newsletter. I've been writing much more recently about
Mhm.
how I see, this world and the work that I do with organizations. So you can subscribe there, start to get the emails, reply. That's what I found. That's how I found the best conversations happen. And I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. There's only one Yuval Yeret in the world, so if you search it up there,
Thank
you'll
God.
find me. I don't know.
And there's also your Red Agility, right? Which is your
Yeah, it goes to the
service.
same place,
Goes to
so
the
it's
same place.
my own
Nice,
little solo consultancy, Yuval Yeret and Yeret Agility. Two
nice,
URLs that go to the same site.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're thankful. First of all, Give Thanks for Scrum was always picked during the week of U.S. Thanksgiving because It's an opportunity to be thankful for what Scrum and Agility has given to our world and given to ourselves. We're thankful for having you and knowing you and having you be a friend of Agile Boston for so long and a supporter of Agile Boston, being part of so many past Give Thanks and coming to this one here, Sweet 16. So we'll look forward to seeing you. That's November 26th at the Microsoft Building, 5 Wayside Drive in Burlington, Massachusetts. We'll be starting about 8:30 in the morning. The open space will start about 9 and it'll be running till noon. And then we have Dr. Sutherland and Dave West going to be giving presentations in the afternoon, followed by the traditional Q&A panel. And where you can get to ask Jeff, Dave, and Daniel Mezek any question you want. And we might have some special guests also as part of that panel. So stay tuned for more information in our mailing list. Yuval, thank you again for being here today. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you very soon.
My pleasure, Joe. See you soon.